guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with a video all about my job. I recently did a 24-hour day in the life video, and I do work for romance authors, and I had a lot of questions on that video of things about my job, what I do, how I got into it, and maybe how other people can get into it. And so I decided to sit down and do an entire video about my job. I did put on my stories a question box and also an anonymous question box in case someone wasn't comfortable. Maybe they're nervous, didn't want me to know they were asking, so I let them ask anonymously, which I will say I don't love using the anonymous feature anymore because people are mean. I will say, just as a reminder, if you don't like someone on the internet, don't follow them. It is that simple. So I'm gonna ignore some of the mean comments that got through my anonymous link, but I did it because I wanted you to feel comfortable asking me any questions you wanted to, that you were curious about my job. And I did get some really good questions in the anonymous box and in my regular just Instagram questions. I do have my Instagram link down below. I love Instagram. I'm probably the most active on my Instagram, so follow me down below if you want to see a little bit peek into my life. But I am a full-time romance author assistant. I do work in the romance industry and pretty open about it. I talk about it a lot on my channel. I talk about it a lot on my stories. And how I got into it, I will go ahead and start with just the story of how I got into it and then go into what I primarily do, and then I can answer questions that I got. So I used to be a teacher. I taught high school English for 8 years. I have had this channel for as long as I have been out of college. In 2015, I did graduate with a major in secondary English education, which is a teaching degree. And then I did have a minor in professional writing, film studies, and English literature. So I loved school, I loved learning, and I'd want to be a teacher since I was little. I always said I wanted to be a teacher and a writer ever since I was 6. And obviously I went through different phases of a lawyer, a marine biologist, which me, a marine biologist, absolutely not, but treasure hunting's cool, okay? I like those kinds of movies. And when I was in elementary school, I remember learning about it, and that was a really quick phase. But I've always loved writing, and I've always loved reading, and I've always loved school. I had for a little bit considered working in publishing, but being from where I am, Columbus, Ohio, and there were not a lot of opportunities unless I wanted to move to a big city. And I was I don't like the city. I like visiting cities. I hate living in cities. So I was that's not gonna happen. So I chose to become an English teacher, and I taught for 8 years, meaning I taught high school English through COVID. And I was miserable in the last couple of years I was teaching. I loved my job. If you've been around for a while, you know I genuinely loved teaching for a very long time, but it's a very, very tiring profession. And I now understand why so many people quit the job. So many people quit teaching. And I made it 8 years, and about 2021, 2022, I was this is not fun. I don't like it. But I was okay, I had a really great group of kids, and they made me love my job, and I was this is fine, I'll be fine. Going into 2022 and 2023, I was I don't love this anymore. So I decided in September of that year that I was going to consider looking at other jobs, and then I had chatted with people in the industry. So because I've had my bookish outlets since 2015, flash forward to 2022, 2023, I was very heavily involved in the book community. I knew a lot of people in the industry, and I started chatting with people around and considering quitting my job. Yeah, the 2023 was the end of that school year. Okay, trying to get my years right because I can't believe I've been doing this for 2 years now, but I had started talking to people around September that I knew, specifically a friend who owns a book box and a couple author friends, and I was I just don't like teaching anymore. What could be my options? And I actually chatted with a lot of people in the industry. I chatted with people who own a book box, authors, audiobook company, and I was what are my options? And I even looked online at regular jobs, 9 to 5 with a paycheck from an employee kind of thing where you had benefits and all that stuff. And so my biggest concern quitting my job was the benefits situation, which I will get into. I had some questions about that, but I decided to look around in September of that year. I was already the school year, I was I literally can't do this anymore. I knew I would stay through the school year, because what would happen is I could quit my job once the school year ended and still have a paycheck through August. That meant school ended at the end of May. I had June, July, and half of August, or the beginning of August, at least 2 months of a full-time paycheck and benefits to figure stuff out. So So during spring break of that year, I decided to really look at applying to jobs online or to see if I could pursue something in the author industry, because that was honestly the dream. I'd seen people do it, but realistically, I like to spend money. So I knew I had to have a job that I would not take a severe pay cut. And I'm very fortunate that I do have this as a source of income, that I was not as worried about how much money I was making, because I do make a chunk of money from YouTube. Can I do this full time? No. I cannot do YouTube and content creation full time because I don't make enough of a salary that I would be comfortable living with. Is it doable? I mean, like, it's like the bare minimum, yes, but I don't feel comfortable enough using only YouTube as a salary. So I knew I had to have another job. And thankfully I could take author work on, and I still have income from this as well, giving me a really comfortable living. I feel like I make enough money, absolutely, and a pain point though is insurance. I do have to pay quite a bit of money out of pocket every month for my insurance, and it does make me nervous if anything happens because of my coverage. I stress very much going into insurance, and I am a silver level. There's like bronze, silver, and gold depending on like how much coverage you want. I'm kind of like in the middle. Thankfully I don't have a lot of medical needs, and I only have one prescription, so I am pretty good unless something happens, and then I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen. It is frustrating. I made an appointment with a dermatologist, and it's $100 for that appointment because that's what my coverage is for my insurance. So if I want to see a specialist, it's $100 just to see them, not including anything else I might have to do there, but it is what it is. That's what I got to live with. That's my choice. But I decided to, and it's been a while, this all happens 2023, talking to people in the industry. My one friend who worked for a book box, she's like, hey, I do know this one author needs an assistant. She needs help with something. And I was like, amazing. That would just be the best. And so I did actually start working for Artemis, which is run by my friend who owns a book box, and I started doing stuff for that, which is a course on how to become a author assistant. So I did help through that, and I've done like a bunch of little things because you learn people who need help with something. So I worked with a PR marketing firm for a little bit that works with authors, and then that was just becoming too much. I couldn't work with them anymore, and Tori and I have our company that we started, which is an audiobook company, and I was just kind of getting my feet settled into a bunch of different things. So I started with one author, and then one of my author friends was like, hey, I'm actually looking to add to my team, and obviously I know you very well, you know my books very well, like, would you be interested? And I was like, absolutely yes. And I didn't know that until after I had already quit my job and started working for the one author. Then that summer I added my second author, and then I'll go to a lot of book signings, you see a lot of people, you go to a lot of dinners, you make a lot of connections, and that's really how I got into this industry. Is I've been around a while, I've talked to a lot of people, and I know a lot of people. And so I then was talking to this other author, and I was like, yeah, I quit my job, I'm working for authors now. She was getting back into publishing. She took a year off, and she was like, I'm starting to publish again, I would love to hire you. So that is how I got hired by the 3 authors that I work for, and I do a lot of different things for them. And again, how I got hired is very, very, very lucky. It is very much word of mouth in the industry. Sometimes authors will put out like, hey, I'm looking to hire an assistant, here's the link, you can apply, but most of the time it's just you hear someone at the right place at the right time who needs an assistant, and you say I'm free, and they hire you. Or you have people that you know who are like talking around, they're like, oh, I do know someone who's looking for work, like anybody looking for an assistant, it just so happens someone is, and that's how you get hired. So a lot of times authors do hire people who are fans of their books. So everybody I work for, which I'll get into in a second, I'm huge fans of theirs. So they already know, I know their books very well, and I genuinely love them. I could not imagine doing my job and not genuinely loving what I do, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It is not all sunshine and roses. Being an author, I said this in my day in the life video, it is a grind. You work non-stop. You are constantly evolving. You are constantly thinking about marketing. What can I do to make my author career successful? And as part of that team, you're doing the same thing, and it's very hard for me to turn it off. So I work a lot. My primary tasks are a lot of different things for a lot of different authors, and sometimes there's going to be one-off projects that they ask for your help with. A very basic tasks of a PA are answering emails, so they will have like a general email that people can email, and you are in charge of answering those emails. I am in charge of answering a lot of emails. That is just part of my job. So it's very customer service based. You're also interacting a lot with their readers, whether that's on Facebook or in emails, so you have to know how to speak to people, and I feel like teaching has really helped me with that. I've taken a lot of skills from teaching and put it into working for authors. So I answer a lot of emails. I moderate some Facebook groups. So you may have seen me in a couple of authors Facebook groups. I do moderate some of them, checking in on them every day, accepting new people to the group. And sometimes I will help brainstorm posts for the group for the author that the author posts, or I just moderate comments and make sure everyone's getting along. And sometimes you do have to get involved in certain discussions and make sure people are being nice to one another. It hasn't happened a lot, but it may happen. So that is another one of the tasks that I do. I also create a lot of content for my authors, whether that's TikToks, Reels, or graphics. I really love doing that. That's part of like what I do for myself, and it's so fun, and I really love that creativity. There's a lot of also brainstorming for my authors of what kind of posts we can do for them. So creating social media schedules of this would be a really fun post based on this book to do to hype up this book before release. So there's a lot of brainstorming, a lot of creativity in what I do. And again, I love it. So, okay, so I said that. I also help run ARC teams. So that means that these authors sometimes, I think for 2 of my 3 authors, I've actually gone through the process of having ARC team signups. So that means that people can apply to be a part of the ARC team, and I have to go through every single person that's applied. So a lot of this stuff does get tedious. There are a lot of spreadsheets. So I had to go through a lot of people who applied to the team and finalize with the author all the people who were on the team, and then running them for every release. So making sure I have all of my drafts for all of my emails, all of my forms prepared, send those out on time, send out emails, respond to emails from all the people on the ARC team. So releases get to be a lot, and it's a lot if all of the authors are releasing at the same time, which has recently happened to me. So I was a little stressed in March because I had 3 authors that I work for all releasing within a month of each other. So that means that I had a lot to do. But I help run the ARC team / the ALC teams. A lot of it's like uploading to BookFunnel, sending them out, troubleshooting anything anybody has. A lot of my time is spent researching. I'll also do a lot of just social media research of seeing what's trending, what people are posting, how could we take what people are like trends going on and apply that to my own authors. So I do that as well. There's just a lot that goes into it. Prepare for signings. So I help order books for one of my authors for the signings. I help with the special editions that we do. There's a lot. There's a lot that you can do for an author depending on what they need from you. And I do a lot of different things for each one of my authors. I do not do the same thing for all of them, and I do have a different role on each of their teams, and some of them I put in a lot more hours for than others just because of what's needed from me, and which is completely normal. So that is the gist of what I do, and I probably left out some of the tasks that I do. I do a lot of social media planning. That is a huge part of my job, and social media content creation, and like planning around release, and trying to just like help them be as successful as possible because I'm so invested in them as people and as authors. So I love what I do. I love my job. I love talking to my authors, brainstorming with them. A lot of it's reading too and pulling content. So I read a lot, but it's a lot of work. So it's not just like, oh, I get to read on the clock. I have to read and pull content and create scenarios and highlight and pull teasers, and it's just like very analytical reading and figuring out like what would be great for social media for those books. So it is a lot that I do. I would not trade my job for the world. I love what I do. I do not have a good work-life balance, I will say. So I work a lot. There's no really turning off, and I do work hourly. So I have an hourly rate with each of my authors, and I track my time working for them. I think I covered this in my day in the life video, which I will link down below if I didn't say that, but I usually start my day off with author 1 that I do the least amount of work for and knock that out directly in the morning. And then I switch to my most busy author and work usually at least like 5 hours a day for her doing things, and then switch to my next author. So I do that pretty much every day, and it's a really great schedule for me. It helps me stay organized. I do not like to switch back and forth between them. I like to chunk it so it's one author, one author, one author. Do I have to go back and forth sometimes? Absolutely yes. Things pop up. I'll have to switch to one to get stuff done, and then I'll have to switch to another. Sometimes one of them will be way busier that day, so I'll do like 1 hour, 3 hours, and then 4 hours, and that's just like how it works. But I try to just make myself as organized as I can. We do use ClickUp. I do have a couple questions on like things that I use. We use ClickUp to do tasks and assign tasks, and it's really helpful to stay organized. I need to-do lists, or else I will forget. Like I will forget to do things if I don't have them written down or on a to-do list, and you can assign them to people on your team. So for 2 of my authors, we use ClickUp has like tasks for release and planning social media, and I absolutely love it. For one of my authors, I will just always upload all of the graphics we have to ClickUp so her newsletter person can see them too, and she has them so everybody on the team can see them and use things in different ways. I do know, I will say, I don't do pretty much anything with newsletters, but that is a big task some author assistants do have. I don't do that for any of my authors. They have other people who do their newsletters. So it is very common for an author to have multiple people to work for them. So everybody I work for has other people working for them. And we have great teams. I love everybody I work with, and I'm very, very lucky to be able to say that. So that is the rundown of my job. I don't know if I did well explaining that, but I will go ahead and go to the questions that people have asked. I do work for, like I said, 3 authors, and I have said that before who I work for. I do work for 3 authors that I love. So I work for Anna Huang, Catherine Cowles, and Gianna Darling. So those are my 3 authors. I absolutely cannot take on anybody else. I am worked very hard, and I work over 40 hours a week. I'm already at 46 hours. It is Saturday. I'm probably going to get in another 3 this weekend doing some one-off things because I do leave for a Polycon next week. I need to work ahead because I'm going to be gone half of Thursday and all of Friday. I get to work a little bit on Friday because we're not doing a lot, so I can like catch up on a couple things, but if I go on a trip, I really have to work a lot in the beginning of the week to get caught up for things that I'll miss when I leave. So it is hard when you work for yourself because there is no off button. I do live in Ohio, so I'm on EST time, and 2 of my 3 authors live on PST time, which is not the most fun for me because I get a lot done in the morning, but then I will say like sometimes I will be needed for things in the evening, and that's just how it goes because of their schedule and my schedule. Obviously, my authors never expect me to work too much or when I am off or anything like that, but I always want to be available when things are needed. So the time difference is not always the easiest, I will say, and they all know that as well. So I'm going to go through these questions, and if you have any questions I don't address by the end, leave them in the comments down below. But someone asked, is 3 your max of authors to work for, or do you want more? 3 is the absolute max. Honestly, for me, I could only work for 2. I do work for 3 though. That's just how it was when I was adding people because I just had more hours, but now as my tasks expand for the authors that I work for, and it's busy, so Gianna has 5 releases this year, which is not normal, and it's just a lot more work and a lot more hours being put in. So I work more than I should be, and I would absolutely not ever, ever, ever add another author unless I stopped working for someone. So 3 is my max. However, I do know some people who do just one task. Like there are people who only do content creation. If I only did content creation, I could work for a lot of authors. If I only did graphics, I could work for a lot of authors. So some people only do one task for an author, and that's why they can work for 10, 12 authors because they're only doing 1 or 2 things for that author. I do a ton of things for the authors that I work for. So I am putting in a lot of hours in the tasks that I do for my authors. So that is why I only work for 3. However, there are people who do work for multiple authors, and they might not be hourly. They might be like rate based. So they will give you 30 TikToks and charge you X amount for 30 TikToks a month, or they will charge you X amount per graphic for what you do. I have the stability of having my 3 authors that I work for, while people who do content creation or different tasks for like 12 authors might not be needed for certain months based on what authors need or where their budget's going or if they have a release or not. So it just depends on what you feel like your strengths are, what you really want to do for authors. If you love content creation, you might want to just do that for authors, and you could work for 15 authors and do content creation for them and be completely fine and charge a flat rate for your services. But I genuinely love what I do, and I would rather do my hourly rate and being a part of an author's team like I am instead of doing one thing for a ton of authors. There is absolutely no right or wrong way to approach this, and it's whatever people do. Because I know people who do graphics for authors and they love what they do, or they do graphics and content creation. There's also people who do content pulls for social media for people, and I just feel like I love the stability of what I'm doing. I'm never like losing or having to look for or having openings in my schedule. I just do what I do for my authors. So like I said, very different of what you could be offering. I have no idea what anybody makes, by the way, so I have no idea if that's actually making more money than the way that I do it. I have no idea. So, okay, that was one question. Do your authors pay you for being a PA? I have a friend who doesn't get paid. Yes, I am paid. I would not do this for free. It is a lot of work. So, yes. I've already gone over my primary tasks. Someone said, do you use any Microsoft BI, Adobe SEO, or any other software marketing tools? I don't use any marketing tools. I do use, oh, what is it called? Publisher Rocket is something that I use for like keyword searching and category searching for one of my authors. So I do use that. I have ClickUp that I use to schedule things. We use Slack, which I guess a lot of people have used before. I've never heard that in education, but it's just a like communication. You'd like send messages to each other and with your team, and then you can have channels and stuff in it. I love Slack. I use that for 2 of my authors. And then there is, oh, I forgot. I do also do ads. I do Facebook ads for one of my authors. That's creating the content for them, pulling the ad copy for them, and posting the ads. So that is something that I do as well. And I do analysis of sales as well. So there's a lot. I knew there was gonna be stuff I forget. I'll analyze like what books are doing in what months, all that stuff. So yes. I do that as well. I am seriously blanking on the name right now, but I also have taken a stab at formatting books for some of my authors. So I don't do that a ton, but I would love to get more into it. So I do have the software used to format books, and it is, I'm blanking on what that is called right now, but I will leave it in the description box down below. I did buy that when it was on sale, so I do have that program, and I have it available to me if I ever need to format books for authors. And that is really it. I use Canva a ton, and I use some stock photo websites, because when you're creating graphics, you have to make sure that they are stock photos and you have permission to use them, and you're not just pulling anything from Pinterest. So how many people work for authors? What do you do? Okay, so I've already explained what I do. It is very different per author. Authors need people to do everything, right? So if an author is able to afford it, they could be hiring out graphics, social media content, TikTok, Reels. They could be hiring out newsletters, people moderating their Facebook group. This is not always a paid position. Like I know moderators are sometimes just like fans or friends or something like that. So not every Facebook moderator is paid, but sometimes they are their paid assistant in there. Then there is running the ARC team, running the ALC team. There are people who format for the author. I mean, they'll have editors, copywriters. They'll have people who run their ads. Some authors do have like full-on business managers that help run their business. There are people who can do everything. I know I'm forgetting so much more that people could hire out. They need artists. They need people who create their character art for them. So there's a lot. They will need people to mail out their PR boxes. I have done that for one of my authors, and it is a hard job putting PR boxes together and mailing them. That's something else I do, is I research sometimes the best things to put into PR boxes as well. I have done that. And other just like researchy kind of things that you might have to do for an author. What is the most rewarding part of your job, and what is the most difficult? So the most rewarding part is being able to be in this business, being able to be such an integral part to someone that you admire so much. So if you guys have watched my channel, you know I have read these authors and been obsessed with them for a very long time. Like Gianna, I started reading in 2018, and I was the biggest hardcore Fallen Men fan, and I've read her ever since. I've loved her and seen her at so many signings, and it's just like so natural being a part of her team. Same with Catherine and Anna. Like, you guys remember when I discovered Catherine would not shut up about her books, and I read them, devoured them, loved them, got to know her, saw her at signings, became friends, and then started working for her. So being able to be a part of their team, watching their success grow is just so rewarding. Seeing their hard work and you helping them pay off is so rewarding. So I love everyone I work for. That's absolutely one of the highlights. And I just like what I do. Like, it's great to have a job, and I work from home with my dogs. Like, that is one of the main things too. I love this job. Teaching is exhausting, and I was jealous of all my friends who worked from home. So I get to work from home, and it's great. I get to work out in the morning. I have a great schedule. It is great. It allows me to travel. One of the most difficult things though is I don't know how to say no, and I don't like saying no. So if I'm asked to do something and I'm already like working my max hours, I will still do something else I'm asked to do. If I get busy, I get busy. I have worked 60-hour weeks before, and like I said, I'm only supposed to be working 40, and it just gets busy and I can't turn it off. That is very hard for me. And it is hard because I don't, and there's a question in here about it, I don't get paid sick time. I have to work my hours or I don't get paid. And that is just what it is when you're self-employed, right? So I do have to do a lot of prep if I'm going to take time off. I don't get, knock on wood, I don't get sick a lot. So there's not a lot of time where I don't feel up to working. And I travel a lot, so I do need to shift and work extra in the beginning of a week if I'm taking time off. So this upcoming week, know that I'm gonna have a really heavy Monday and Tuesday because I leave Thursday and Friday. So I have to adjust my schedule and get in my work time because I don't have sick days. I don't have vacation days. I can take time off. My authors are really great at knowing. I just have to tell them when I'm not working and they're like, cool, great, have fun. But I also will check in when I'm on vacation. So I will still look at emails. I will still try to check in and make sure nothing is needed from me. And like I said, they're great about me taking time off, but I will never not be working. So I check in a lot. So that is the hardest part. It is really hard. It is really hard for me to take time off and say no and not work. Okay, so this is a question and I've seen people approach this before. So they say, how did you get your job? Did you approach the authors, apply for the jobs, or did they ask you? So most of it was word of mouth. They had learned that I was looking for a job and they chatted with me about it. I do know that some people will open applications and I do know people who will email authors, and I think that you can respectfully email an author. I've heard stories of people being like, oh, someone emailed and were like, you really need work on this and I can do it for you. And that's really insensitive and insulting to the people that already work for them. So you can just say you're offering author services and you should have, some people have a post to their Instagram, some people have a website, and you can like link it like what you offer to people. A lot of people do post. They have a specific Instagram post and they share it so that their friends can share it and authors can see that they're hiring. So you can just put yourself out there and you can very politely email authors saying that you are have openings and you are looking to add authors to your work. The worst that can come from that is them saying, my team is full, but I'll definitely keep you in mind. But then sometimes like they might know someone and pass your name along to someone. So you can definitely apply if an author posts that they have an opening. You can ask around to people who know that they have someone that's hiring, or you can email authors and let them know that you work and what you offer and go from there. I will say your social media ends up becoming kind of a resume, so make sure you are very thoughtful about what you're posting because people can see, oh, you have really great graphics actually, and you can sometimes even put like the things that you've done on your social media posts of what you offer or your website of what you offer. You can get different, quotes from authors, referrals from authors, like to post on your social media too that you've worked for, and yeah, that's how you can approach trying to get a job in this industry. Okay, so someone asked, do they ask for help on the direction the story will go? So I actually beta read sometimes, depending on if they need it, for two of my authors. One of them I beta read every single book, and I will chat through plotting if they have a question. So that's definitely one of my favorite parts too, is being able to help and work with that. Other one of my authors I'll sometimes beta read if they need it, and then the other one I do typically just read after they're done, and they will bounce back and forth like what they want to write next and what would work well with that. So a lot of them just like we chat about their work and their business and where things are going, and they kind of use you as a sounding board sometimes. So I do this more with some of them than others, but yes, beta reading is when they give it to you after like the first or second draft, and then you read it and give feedback, and they have specific questions sometimes. So I do beta read for some of them. Someone did say though, are you automatically a beta reader if you're assistant? No, only if they need it, only if they want you. Beta reading is a very intimate and vulnerable thing to do because an author's asking you for feedback of their work, and so it takes in a really big amount of trust for them to ask someone to beta read their work. It's a very delicate balance of being a beta reader, and you will not automatically beta read. So sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So that is just the nature of beta reading. Someone did ask what experience would be helpful for this role. I will say being in the book community is the most helpful thing that I have for being an author assistant. I am so in tune with what is being published, what is popular, what is in the top 100 all the time, what authors are doing, what they're doing with their PR boxes, the marketing for their books, what they're posting. I am constantly on social media. I will show you, this is embarrassing, but I'm gonna show you how often I'm on my phone, my hours. I've never done this before because people will do like trading my screen time with my reading. I'm on my phone all the time. To be fair, I do work on my phone, so I do content creation a lot on my phone. Daily average is 7 hours and 47 minutes. So I'm always on my phone. I am always on my phone. That is actually embarrassing to tell you, but I am, let's see my most used yesterday. So yesterday was Friday. I spent 3 hours on Instagram. I spent 2.5 hours on TikTok. Thursday, I spent 2 hours on Instagram an hour and a half on TikTok. Oh, it counts my notes app. So when I pull content, I pull it and type it into my notes app as I'm reading on my Kindle, so that does count too. Oh, and it counts me when I'm working out, when I'm on Spotify. So I don't think this is like that accurate, but I just spent like 20 minutes in my Kindle because I was screenshotting things to put on the stuff. But I spend roughly 3.5 to 4 hours on social media every day. So I am always in the know. Is that healthy? No, but I am ingrained in the book community. I see all. I am not necessarily commenting on things. I am the worst at liking and interacting, but I watch. And I think that's one of the biggest, most integral parts of working in the author space is just knowing the community and knowing what's going on, knowing what the trends are, knowing how to market a book, knowing what's popular, knowing what those hooky scenes are that will do well. I've had reels for some of my authors get 1 million views, and that is like the best feeling ever. So just knowing what content will do well for an author, for sure. I've had people ask this before, so what advice would you give for being transparent as a book reviewer while being an assistant? And I think that, I mean, like, obviously I am 100% honest in all of my reviews. I always am, I always have been. I have been doing this for 10 years. I have been on the internet reviewing books for 10 years, and nothing has changed about how honest I am about what I read. If you feel like you can't trust someone, don't follow them. Like, that's what I will say. I'm very upfront about my job. People know who I work for. I've talked about it on my channel before. I have never liked being negative, especially on Instagram. I feel like YouTube is pretty far removed from authors seeing your content. Instagram, I interact with authors, I tag them, I chat with them in messages, they follow me, I follow them, and I don't want my content being shoved in their face. And so, especially if it's negative content. And I only post positive things on Instagram because I'm only posting about the books I love. Do you know how miserable I would be if I was only reading books I hated or only talking about books I hated? I would hate that. I love books. If you've been following me, you know I love romance. I've been reading and talking about romance for 10 years. I could not be doing this for 10 years if I didn't love it. And I just want to talk about the books I love, and I love obsessing over books and fangirling and finding my new favorite book. I feel like, especially when I became an author assistant, I've even talked less about the books I don't like and more about the books I do like. So I've done videos where it's like least favorite books of the year. I don't do that anymore. I didn't like doing it, and I don't want to harp on the bad, and I would rather use my platform to share books I love and to recommend books I love. Like, that's what I want to be known for. That's what I want my brand to be, and so that's what I do. And so I read books, and I have honest opinions of them. I'll put them on Goodreads, and I will, if I don't like a book, I will say I didn't like this book, but I won't post like a scathing review to Instagram about it. I won't post a scathing review to TikTok. I will feature the books I love on those platforms. And I feel like that's been a good balance of also working in the space, because I'm not someone who's crapping on authors that I'll see at book signings. I'll read their book. If I don't like it, I'll post my review and move on with my life. And that's what I do. So I do focus on the positives in the books that I like. So that's kind of how I balance working in the space, but also being a reviewer in the space. Is the pay a livable wage? Yes. I am living a comfortable life doing what I do. And I would have never stopped working as a teacher if I couldn't do that. So, is your job demanding? Yes. So I have a lot that I do for all of my authors, and they have tasks for me that I need to make sure I do in a timely manner. A lot of things in the author world are time sensitive too, so yeah, it can be demanding. How do you know what to charge, or how do you come up with a rate sheet? So I did talk to some people in the industry about what a good starting rate would be. Sometimes authors will give you a raise as you're working for them, and like you may be working for them for a few years, and that's just something you really do have to talk to your author about. Sometimes they will offer a starting rate, or sometimes you can. So I would definitely talk to people in the community that you know work as author assistants, see what the norm for charging is. You can ask the author what they are willing to offer, and then you can counter offer or start with what you would rather have your rate be. Just have a rate in mind of what you think you would want to charge, while, like I said, others have a rate sheet where they are offering certain things at certain prices. And I feel like it varies greatly depending on the person. So you're just gonna have to do your research, talk to people, and see what they charge, and see what you're willing to charge for what you do. Again, it varies greatly person to person, author to author, and how integral you are to their team. Can you switch off from work? Do you set hours and log off? Seems like people in the US work so much for low wages and no benefits. So I can switch off work, but it is hard. I try to work from 8:30 in the morning and have a cutoff time of 5 p.m. Does not always happen. Sometimes I will take my dogs, take a break. Sometimes I'll take a content break where I need to like film something for 30 minutes, but usually I work my 8 hours. Sometimes I'll have to work from 6 to 7. Sometimes I work 7 to 8. A lot of times I'll save my like content pulling and like reading for the evening, so I'm not stuck at my computer. So my computer hours are 8:30 to 5. Then I will do other stuff from like 6 to 8, sometimes to 9 if it's really bad. But yeah, no, I don't do well with that. You regret working for yourself. No universal health care, low wages, high taxes, no maternity leave, sick leave. I do not. I love my job and I'm willing to sacrifice certain things that I know I have, from a corporate job to doing what I love, working with people that I love, and working from home. I do have to pay my own taxes. I pay quarterly and I have an accountant who does my taxes for me. I'm actually figuring out how much I have to pay tonight. So I will see how much I owe in taxes, but I have paid quarterly, so it shouldn't be too much more that I owe, but it's a good chunk of change. You pay a lot of taxes, especially when you're self-employed. So I do budget that, and I pay insurance. I hate it. Our country sucks. Like, what can I say? It's really awful being self-employed in this country, but I am willing to do that to do what I love. And I make a living where I'm comfortable. So I'm willing to do that. Someone did say, I would like to become an author assistant, but I'm afraid of not taking the right steps when there isn't a rule book for this. There is no rule book, and I feel like as long as you're respectful in this space and you are actually a hard worker and you respect the authors that you work for. I know that the book community can become very gossipy, very drama filled. You need to be very, very respectful of who you work for and not gossip about their business. I am still very, very respectful of them as authors, and I know I am representing them in their business and I want the best for them, and so I know what I say and do and how I act can reflect on them. You are representing your author's business. Like, people know who works for who, and if you're mean, if you are someone who constantly bashes other people online, like, they're not gonna want to work with you. So make sure you know how you're presenting yourself online and just be kind. Like, if you are very nice in approaching authors, sending them an email, seeing if they have any openings, like, the worst they can say is no, and like, you can move on. But being nice goes a long way. So just know that it is a very small community in the grand scheme of things, and sometimes that does end up being a really great thing. That is how I got my job, is just word of mouth and people knowing people and talking to people. So yeah. That is the long story short of my journey of being an author assistant and working in the author space. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any additional questions in the comments down below. If you've made it this far, leave me a book in the comments. That's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.